This is the thing. Who you choose to hang around with, who you choose to have in your posse is exactly who you become. Choose your posse wisely. I'm here to tell you that putting yourself first is not selfish, it's revolutionary. Welcome to the Ayurvedic Woman podcast, empowering women to light their lives on fire through Ayurveda, yoga, spirituality, and fitness.
Jai Bhagwan, everybody, and welcome to the Woman Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Satyavani, and I have my fabulous co-host here with me today.
Prajna Madhavi. Sounds good.
Doesn't it?
Woman Warrior.
You like it?
Yep, I like it.
All right. So, folks, we have decided, Prajna and I, and our producers here at SB Studios, we have decided that we are going to change the name of the podcast to sync everything up accordingly and to have a widespread net. All of the content is going to continue with the Vedic sciences, Ayurveda, yoga, Jyotish, spirituality. We're also sliding our fitness pieces in there, of course, as always. But we have decided that the Woman Warrior brand is the direction that we are going full speed ahead.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I love it. It's just all-encompassing. And every time I would say, people would ask, what's your podcast? I'd be like, the Ayurvedic Woman. They're like, the what?
How do you spell that?
Yeah. And so I think it tripped people up. And
Agreed.
So, but that was just one thing. But I think that the Woman Warrior podcast is just, it is all encompassing as to what we want to bring forward and what we want to bring forth to people.
I agree.
I love it.
I agree. I am super excited. And that brings with it so many new and interesting things that are coming along the way. So stay tuned for all of the goodness that is coming forth. But in the meantime, please do switch your mind from the Ayurvedic Woman to the Woman Warrior podcast. And please do share it with all of the women that are out there. I think part of it is that not only does the title help get more women there and engaged in the podcast, but it also gives us an opportunity to apply these Vedic sciences, specifically Ayurveda, into everyday life in a very practical way. And so I think once gals are engaging in the podcast and are listening, they're just gonna get the juice rather than being tripped up immediately in the beginning, being like, well, I don't really know what that stuff is, and so therefore I shouldn't listen. Yeah. Versus like, oh wow, Woman Warrior, like I can really get into that, and then having the content be, as it has been, very true to the actual sciences that we practice. Yeah. And also in a very practical day-to-day life kind of way.
Yeah, very relatable, and the only constant is change, right? So us changing and evolving and transforming, I mean, it's what we do. It's what we talk about all the time. So
it's what we're about.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is really exciting. And it's interesting. So like a couple of things that we wanted to discuss today was to talk about why this is changing and what the evolution has been over time and how that ties into what we talk about in terms of living a life of purpose. The one constant is change, as you have said. And so this podcast actually, as you know, started out in my...
kind of the backstory. Like what need were you trying to fill by starting a podcast? Like what kind of made you think that podcasting was something that you wanted to do?
I appreciate the interview question.
Yes.
So it's funny. Whitney Mosley, shout out Whitney, woohoo! Whitney Mosley, who handles my social media and collectively our social media for the podcast, along with Roberto and Sean here at SB Studios. She and I actually, we went to Ayurveda school together, the same school but at different times. I was several years ahead of her, and we served on a board together. She was the education and marketing side of the board, and I was the president of the board, which was the National Ayurvedic Practitioners Association. So we got reconnected. We got connected through that. And then that board got dismantled for a variety of different reasons, et cetera. And one of the things that she said to me, because everybody had to vote for who they wanted the president to be, and so when I got voted in as president, she said, she goes, your biggest asset is your mouth. And like the best words ever. I love you, Whitney. Thank you so much.
That comes up all the
Right.
time.
And it's true.
It is.
It is true. Like I have a big mouth and I make no apologies about it because I think that we collectively have some really important things to share in the world. And there's a lot of noise that's out there. And if we have positive things that are uplifting to share, then it's really important to put it out there. So getting back to your question, I started this podcast actually the month COVID hit. I actually didn't even realize that until I was looking back.
When I saw it, March 2020.
Right.
Holy moly.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Michael and I had taken a group to India for some yoga training and retreat, etc. And we got back, and like 5 days later, the entire world went into lockdown.
Mm-hmm. And we were in AWP1.
That's right.
I do remember that.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were in AWP1. That's
Yeah.
right. You guys were the magic year.
COVID year.
The COVID year. And so when I got back, I was like, these teachings really need to get out there in a much more public way, and specifically honed for and shaped for women in a very day-to-day practical kind of way. Because I think a lot of people have, especially women who are into health and wellness and maybe even come from the traditional sciences, nurses and PAs and physical therapists, et cetera, as they're getting deeper into their craft or they're shaping their lives, they've heard this word Ayurveda that's out there, and they're like, there's something very interesting about that. And so my whole intention behind it was to stay true to the teachings, but to also bring them to life in a very practical day-to-day kind of manner. How do these philosophies and these teachings apply, both yoga and Ayurveda? How do they apply in our day-to-day life? Because a lot of people think that when we look at spirituality, when we look at different medical sciences, whether it's Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, allopathic medicine, that they're over there, but my life is over here. Yeah. And my whole goal was to bring those two things together. And as I was going through ways to do that, I thought about, okay, I've got a big mouth, and I have had 30 years of experience and interaction and study and research in this science. And how do I bring those two things together? And this, I'm not like a podcast listener. You're the one out of the two of us that you listen to the podcast and you always send them to me. And I listen to the ones that you send me, but then I don't listen.
Yeah.
Except I will give a shout out to both Joe Rogan and Andy Frisella. I have listened to your podcasts on the more regular. And then Whitney has sent me, Jay Shetty and all of that. But if you notice, they're all men.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, there is nothing out there in the women's space with this type of, I don't want to use the word angle, but with this type of content that has been transformative to me over my lifetime. And so it was like, okay, why don't I just try podcasting and we'll see what happens. And it literally started in my home office here in Boise, Idaho, in front of my, at that time, it was a 12-year-old laptop.
Nice.
and a Bluetooth, not Bluetooth, a USB microphone.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even have a headset in the beginning. And then I had a friend, Tim, shout out to Tim Bryant, who I asked for advice on because he does tech stuff on the side and photography and all of that. And he's like, these are some minor baseline things that you should get to do your podcast. And so then it turned into a headset, and I had a cool microphone, and then I thought I was so cool, and here I am recording it right in front of my laptop in my office, and that's how it was born. And I just feel very passionate about this work and how it's evolved. It really has evolved and shifting and changing. And then as you came up through the Ayurvedic Woman program,
Yeah.
that level 1, level 2, level 3, Acharya initiation, etc., it was like, okay, like I need a partner and this needs to expand. And then you came on in, was it June? Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll
I think
be
it
a
was.
year next month.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
And how do you feel about it? Like, how do you feel as the person who has witnessed it from the beginning and now being the co-host? I'm curious.
Yeah. Your podcasts, obviously, no matter what they look like, I mean, the content was always very good and helpful and
Thank you.
knowledgeable. And, I remember you just talking about various different things that we would talk about in AWP, and it was just very relatable. And boy, when you first, I remember at the initiation Acharya retreat, I remember saying to you, "Do you need an assistant?" And you're like, "Oh, just wait.
I got plans for you, boo.
Plans." And then,
'Cause
yeah,
I think at that time you were actually at that point contemplating quitting your day job.
Yeah.
Day job.
I was.
Oh,
Yeah.
and here we are.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So,
Because I remember you saying, like, I'll be your assistant and I'll work at the co-op or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'll just be your assistant. I'll have like a little side job. Now with COVID and everything, that all became a very difficult
Yeah.
transformation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember saying that, and lo and behold, a couple years later,
Here we are.
yeah, it's kind of nice. I'm not really your assistant, but
You're not.
you're
My partner.
partner and cohort, and I love it. And it's really fun to do these podcasts and just have a conversation.
Oh.
Just having conversations with people. It's really cool to be able to do it. And through the Ayurvedic lens, again, I'm really excited of what we have planned moving forward.
Yep. Well,
pretty
because
exciting.
it's also transforming the academy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In many, many different ways as it's unfolding. So, gals, stay tuned. We've got some good stuff coming ahead.
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
And it's given me a lot of confidence too that I
Aw.
can do these things.
You can do hard things.
Yep. Because I'm fairly introverted and I don't have a big mouth.
You don't have a big mouth. It's funny when we do things together.
I'm kind of like the person behind you, like, yeah, what she said.
What's up? No, but it's funny. Like when we co-taught a yoga class a couple of weeks back in Meridian at Yoga 6, and that was a blast. And this, not the one that we did with Monica, which was so fun as well, but the first one that we did on the koshas. And then afterwards, students were coming out and they're asking questions and everything. And you're like, I'm just going to go start mopping up.
I'm like cleaning everything, and Satyavani's having all these conversations with people, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I'm not helping." I'm like, "It's okay.
She's like, that's your job."
This is my role. That is yours."
It was fun. That was really a lot of fun. And I so appreciate you for getting that.
Yeah.
Because, and that's the thing that I also appreciate about not only this podcast, about working with you, because I think that we have the ability to be an example of what good, high quality female friendships are like.
Yeah.
And that's really important, because one of the things that has come up over the years, not just with the evolution of the podcast, but even with the Ayurvedic Woman program, is that a lot of women who have come into the circle over the past 4 years have, one of the things that they say to me out of the gate is, I haven't had a lot of luck with having friendships with women.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find that absolutely fascinating. And now, obviously, you and I, having worked with all of these women through the years, we understand why. I mean, you see patterns and you see different reasons why those things evolve. And I so appreciate what we do together, because in any relationship, whether it's your family, whether it is a romantic relationship, an intimate relationship, or whether it is a friendship, an intimate friendship, everybody has a role, and I think what has happened over time is that, especially as it in my observation with women, with female friendships, is that at some point in time, one or both feel like they have to compete with the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that just sucks.
Yeah.
Rather than like, this is my strength, this is your strength. Like, let's bring those two things together. I want to see you win.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see me win.
Yeah.
And I thought about that the other day because I saw this clip. I've actually seen the whole Netflix, the Netflix series that Chris Rock did. Chris Rock did a post Will Smith slap comedy show, and that this was not the piece I was looking at, but it's called Tambourine, and he says this thing, and I'm totally paraphrasing it because he's just hysterical, and he talks about a marriage, and he says, a marriage. He goes, here's a couple of things to know about marriage. Stop competing with one another. Her success is your success. Your success is his success. And then he goes on from there. And I thought about that in the work it is that we do. Like, stop, ladies. Just stop. In any kind of relationship, whether it is a business relationship, just a friendship, the work it is that we're doing here, that we're evolving, et cetera, it's like when I win, you win. When you win, I win. And it's like, boom. And if you go into it with that mentality, and I think that's part of the transformation of the Ayurvedic woman into the woman warrior. Like, it started out as a solo project that I was just doing all on my own. And now the incredible value that you have brought into this partnership, it needs to evolve and expand. So like, this is also a testament to the amazing energy that you've brought into this whole circle. So thank you. You're so welcome. You're so fabulous. So good. So there we are. How do you feel about joining the big leagues?
That's great.
Because we're so big time.
We're so big time.
I mean, look at this.
I know.
Like, we're having a lot of fun. We're
You in your
coming for
little
you,
office?
Andrew Huberman. We're coming for you.
You in your little office with no headset?
No headset.
Yeah, lights that match our logo and all sorts of stuff going on.
And amazing producers.
Yeah,
Really, really cool.
it's awesome.
And that's also a shout out to the folks here at SB Studios, Roberto and Sean, for really helping us start to hone this vision even more, which, it's really about being okay with change and transformation and all that. And I'll even say, for myself, if I had started this podcast like 10 years ago, I probably would be more hesitant to changing the title, bringing on a partner, et cetera, 10 years ago than I am now. And I can 100% admit that.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, oh my God, thank God. Someone's here to help this chaos that's going on in the world. So,
Yeah.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yep.
So in your opinion, how does this evolution of the podcast tie into our year about living a life of intention and purpose? Dharma.
This is a big part of, for me, shifting my dharmic purpose, which, as we're learning in the Dharma Circle, the educator is my primary. Warrior and outsider in there as well. But with the educator being my primary, I've been saying for years that I know that I'm a teacher. Like,
could not agree more.
The issue is the role that I'm currently in is not where I want to be for much longer. And just understanding that even through this podcast I'm teaching, and through just being that example, and through personal training, and through yoga instructing, like, those are all ways of teaching. And teaching can look very different in many different settings, but they all fit that same purpose. And so this shift with the podcast, and like, it's exciting, and it thrills me that we have the right people behind us, we have the right energy behind us, and it gets me really excited that, and scares the shit out of me.
Fucking A.
That
Totally.
taking that potential leap from
Mm-hmm.
a world that has felt very secure for me for many, many years.
Secure or familiar?
Familiar with a lot of people saying that it's secure, so that it makes you familiar, or makes it familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And just it's a world that I have not ever been in. I really should think about my parents, because my parents they went from farming, which was something that the expectations from them was you farm.
Yep.
A family farm, and they shifted when they were in their 40s.
Was it this time, this decade?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah, in their 40s. My dad was like, I can't. In 1988, I was 13. He looked around him with hogs with a disease. They were, we'd gotten rid of all of our hogs because they had pseudorabies, and we had a major drought 2 years in a row. And he just looked around and he said, I don't want to do this anymore.
That's courage.
Yeah. And
That's courage.
So, we've had, conversations. I've had conversations with my parents, just like, I just don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching high school.
And what do they say? I'm curious.
They are concerned
Sure.
about the security part.
Of course.
Like, well, you have Percy and it's one of the best. I'm like, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But
And you're still
really-
entitled to that after
Yeah.
20 plus years
Yeah.
of teaching.
Yeah. But at the same time, they're like, well, we did it. We changed everything and picked up and left our entire family.
They moved out of state.
Yeah, moved across the country.
Mm-hmm.
We came back years later when my aunt was sick, and we visited, and like my cousins were asking my dad, why didn't you stay in Iowa? And my dad was like, I couldn't get a job in Iowa. I tried.
Mm-hmm.
And they had never heard that before. They're like, we just thought you wanted to leave us. And he's like, no. I mean, yeah, but no. Like, I wanted to stay in Iowa
Mhm.
and be a civil engineer, but no one would hire me.
Right.
He's like, so I had to go out of state. And they're like, oh. And so, yeah. That's kind of a roundabout. But
No, it's great. This is great.
yeah, I just think about, that purpose and how it can look many different ways.
Yes.
And just that it is that security and kind of the leaping into the unknown, where I have to work through and I have to practice what I preach with all of this.
Yep.
And look at it that way. So,
And you have support.
yeah,
I'm going to be with you the whole way, girl.
I know.
The whole way.
Yeah.
And we have the support of all the people who are around us who actually do want to see this succeed and want to see you win and all of that.
And my mom is still trying to figure out how to find a podcast on her phone.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
She's like, I'd like to listen, but I need you to show me how to find it.
How do I do this?
Okay.
Does she have an iPhone?
Oh boy, that's a good question.
Okay. Because I was going to say, just
I don't
tell
know
her
which
to
one she has,
click
but
Apple Podcasts.
I know.
Make her life easier.
I know I have to. Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you share that the story and the space that you're in right now with this like leading a life of purpose, and our podcast is transforming, you're transforming. It reminds me of when I decided to leave my quote full-time secure job.
Academia.
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So I was in academia for a while, and then we left California, went back to New York. I went back into the K-12 system as an assistant principal. Worst job ever. And lasted like 3 years, and people were like, oh, you're up for tenure. I'm like, oh God, no, I'm not. Goodbye.
Mhm.
And then we moved to Oregon, and before we opened up our first commercial yoga studio space, both Michael and I, we had the discussion. It was like, someone has got to get a full-time job so that we have like something. And so I easily got a job. It was just like timing and space and circumstance. And so I went back into actually educational technology and worked at a nonprofit in Eugene, Oregon, and did that for a couple of years. And then Michael and I decided we were going to run our first yoga teacher training program in the summertime. And this was the summer of 2010 or 11. One of the two. I think 2011. I think it was 2011. And yeah, because it has been now 13 years of yoga teacher training programs. Ooh, long time. Way to go, Michael. And I remember asking my boss, I said, this is going to be a 3-week program. I need to take 3 weeks off because it's full time, et cetera. And she granted, I had, quote, earned the time off and, that whole thing, the whole formula. And she was like, great, and I was going to be local anyway. I mean, we were doing it out of our yoga studio that was literally like, 7-8 blocks down the street from where I had my day job. And I remember embarking before that weekend, like we're getting prepared for the program to start. And I left that Friday from the office. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not coming back. If this goes in the direction that I'd like it to go, I am not going back. And we ran the program for 3 weeks, and it was successful, and we had a great time doing it. And I remember sitting down by myself first and thinking, okay, the only way that this is going to grow is if I'm all in. And Michael, he was a little bit more skeptical about it because, he had the same mindset, and I get it. Americans are raised to
attachment.
Exactly. But also like raised in this formula,
Yeah.
And especially women are raised in the formula. Like you go to school and then you go to college and you get the job and you have the career. And then, the other things that happen in your life, whether it's marriage or kids or whatever, that whole thing plays itself out, but you work for somebody because it's secure. And I remember thinking, I don't think I can do that. And at that point in time, I had finished my doctorate, and it was about 8 years deep after I had graduated. And I remember having a conversation with my mom, who was an entrepreneur, and said, I think I'm going to quit being in, quote, education, where I was, quote, using my doctorate, and I'm just going to, run this yoga studio with Michael and the whole thing. And I remember her saying, so you're not going to teach anymore? Not understanding that like teaching yoga was teaching. And so, she eventually wrapped around and understood, the whole thing, et cetera. But that initial like, well, I teach in a classroom and that makes me a teacher, versus what we're doing right now is teaching. So like, as you're expressing this, I'm like, oh my God, that was me. I totally remember, being in my 30s. And then one day it was just like, fuck it, I'm doing this. And you just jump in and you start fucking swimming.
Do you get floaties? No.
No, you get no floaties.
Get in there. Get in the deep end.
That's it.
Start paddling.
Right. And I will say that, like, yes, I had Michael. The two of us were scrapping it out, in the beginning together. But the advantage that you have is that, like, you have a community that like wants to see you win and support you, and you're when you think you're alone, you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it, folks. There's the story of the evolution and what the two of us are going through right now. And so where do we go from here? I reflect back on what it was that you said at the beginning of the year of, when we started recording the podcast at the beginning of the year, and you said, I'm just putting it out there and see what happens.
Yep.
How does that feel now? Famous last words.
Yeah. It's intense. Like I gotta keep putting it out there because I have a lot of not necessarily doubt, but hesitation.
Sure, that's
And
natural.
So, yeah,
it's totally natural. Our podcast producers probably feel that as well. Like,
Yeah.
Yep, here we are.
Yeah.
Let me hold my nose. Here comes the cold water.
And I have never been in that space. I've always, wanted to be in a spot where I know what's coming. I know, you have that lineup. But how my life has transpired, there's been a lot of things that have come up that have slapped me in the face. So,
Yeah.
you think you're going to be married for, many years, and then something comes along. It's like, shit, okay.
Right.
Life is going to change. So, yeah.
You can handle hard things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's really what the evolution of this podcast is moving towards, like using these teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and spiritual practice in allowing women to not only engage in them in day-to-day life, but to also understand how these teachings turn into tools for life to help you train for life.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is. I mean, everybody has fears. Everybody has doubts. Everybody has hesitations. And then we also have these joyful, partnered, awesome moments that make life like, yeah, right. And it really is the yin and the yang of applying these teachings and allowing ourselves to be like, okay, like it goes back to, what is that in The Hangover too? But did you die? But did you die? You're like, not going to die.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
As we said in our
Gotta
last
get good with
podcast.
death.
Gotta get good with death. But this right here, you are on the precipice of a new death. The Prajna 2.0, which is exciting. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited for us.
Yes.
So we will also, as part of this podcast, our goal, not only with living a life of purpose and opening up the whole woman warrior thing, but it's also to have many local female run businesses, those gals on board. We want to contribute to what it is that they're doing, to highlight them and make folks aware of what's actually happening here in Boise, Idaho, in places that you and I have interacted in.
Yeah.
How's that feel?
I love that. I think that's one of the things that we have been focusing on lately, is just thinking about the businesses that we frequent and how they wrap into the purpose that we have and all of the things that they do for our community. And that's where it starts. That's where change starts, is with you and then in your community and how you interact with the people in your community. And I love the idea that we are going to get, these women in and these business owners in and just getting it out there and just talking about what they do and how they got there. And because again, it's not always just about you and me.
No,
It's about many other stories.
And those stories are super valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about that. So
Yeah.
So, gals, we are going to evolve the Woman Warrior Academy online community. We have some things in store that we're going to start rolling out to get folks engaged and stay on brand and invite all of you to participate in. So stay tuned. And if you are still interested in getting information about the online community, regardless of where it is that you are, go to thewomanwarrioracademy.com. A little pop-up will come up and it'll say, hey, are you interested in joining our online community? Fill in the information there. It's just name, phone, and email, and we will get information out to you as some exciting things are going to unfold over the summer. So join, do it, be part of it. You'll love it. It's Oracle card time. What does the future say for the new Woman Warrior podcast evolution? Dun, da, da.
Healer.
Ooh.
You have the spiritual gift of healing and a desire to share it with others.
Oh my God.
Which is really where you kind of started this whole podcast and to begin with.
Absolutely.
This card validates what you've always known. You are a healer. While each person possesses this gift, some, like you, have refined and polished their abilities. The divine love and light within every sentient being can be directed and amplified to benefit others, and you've learned how to do so through many lifetimes devoted to healing work. You've been conducting this work for most of your present life, and others are naturally drawn to you for help. You are compassionate, intuitive, and sensitive. For this reason, like the guy who walked by and was like, "Do you lift somewhere?"
Yes, I do.
Cool. For
Looking good.
For this reason, you can build up confidence in your healing abilities by trusting your feelings and intuitive ideas. You can also feel more self-assured as a healer by taking classes related to your interests, even if they're an eclectic mix of subjects. Like country line dancing.
I'm not country line dancing with you. They've been trying to get she and Holly Kerrigan. Holly, stop it. Been trying to get me to do country.
We're going to get her, Holly. We'll get her.
Trying to get me to country line dance. For the record, I know I live in Boise, Idaho. I hate country music. And Beyonce, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
It doesn't really quite fit.
No.
As a healer, you'll need to take exceptional care of yourself emotionally and physically to withstand the intense energetic demand of caring for others. Follow your intuitive guidance as to diet, exercise, and lifestyle, and practice healthy boundaries with other people. Remember that the greatest healers know when to take rests and also how to balance giving with receiving. By practicing a healthy lifestyle yourself, by setting an example, you become an inspiring role model and ensure your longevity in the healing profession, which is what we are doing every day.
Dude.
That's why you're carrying your buckets around the Krav studio.
Fucking carry the bucket. I love you, August.
Yeah.
I hate doing the bucket.
hate all of your ideas.
I don't like your
love
ideas.
you.
Exactly. And I know it's good for me. Marks on my arms and all. So,
Yeah.
no, this is perfect
Yeah.
for launching us into this new space.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. You're excited.
Yep.
I hope all of you are excited. And please do, if you are excited and would like to share why you're excited, please make comments on our YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
which is now the Woman Warrior Academy. Make comments in the Spotify comment section, which now the podcast goes from the Ayurvedic Woman to the Woman Warrior podcast. I think it takes like 48 hours for
Mhm.
the title to flip. So if you don't quite see it yet, it will happen within the next few days. So any other comments, sister?
No.
All right.
Super excited.
We did not do a wellness check-in
We did
today.
not.
Okay, so very briefly, because you're looking extra jacked today.
Mm.
Yep. Just very briefly before we go, how you feel on scale from 1 to 10?
I would say a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not,
good.
I mean, physically great. I was a little exhausted today for some reason.
A lot of people had an energy dip today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think allergies or whatever blew in yesterday. Kind of, it's like, yeah. I'm still fighting some sort of energetic change,
Okay.
but otherwise, great. How about you?
I'd say 9.
Nice.
Feel great.
Yeah.
Feel super great. Feel strong.
My digestion is way better after your.
Kitchery.
Yes.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh my goodness.
Eat the kitchery.
Oh.
It'll change your life.
Number one thing is get a personal chef when I have the money.
What-
Just fix all my food for me.
Please, can I just lay there and eat crepes? I love it. Sorry, folks, we went off on a tangent, but I would say you're on a 6. I'm on a 9. I hope all of you are 9, 10, even 11. But we are excited to keep moving forward. So thank you, everybody. We are so happy for you to have joined us today. And we are excited for everything that is moving forward. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. Jai Bhagwan.
Jai Bhagwan, everyone.
And may your soul be victorious.
Is life hard? Yeah, it's really fucking hard. And you can also have the life it is that you want. You just got to work for it.